why I'm going to speak briefly, because I think it's late in the day. And what I want to say, my friends, including yourself, we are thinking of the 5th World Conference on Women. I know we'll face the same questions we faced during the 4th World Conference, because whenever I traveled, people asked me, why a World Conference? And I think that gave me a courage to prepare a conference in a way that it became a revolution. It became a movement, a world movement. I think there was no other way we could do it effectively. And I remember, so the way we did it up to the grassroots level, it was quite inclusive. And at that time, we didn't have laptops, most of us. We were not connected on the net. You see, the world is changing so fast. Within less than 20 years, the communication has been enhanced. Although in the developing countries, the accessibility to the mainstream of information is still very limited, particularly in areas where you don't have electricity. But all the same, the courage of those people, they move sometimes to the cities to read their messages and come back to the villages. So that should not discourage us. Why the 5th World Conference? Not because I want to be Secretary General again, but because I'm concerned that there are so many things which have happened since 1995, which we never envisaged during that conference. A very simple example. Did we ever know that there would be a tsunami? You mentioned it.
No.
Have we taken stock how many women have died in the tsunami? It was a big catastrophe. Was the agenda on climate change there? We just talked about environment in terms of protecting the trees, the rivers, and so on as a source of a resource, and the participation, the sharing of women in this resource, but not the way we are seeing it today. In New York, it's dry and warm in February. I remember one time when we were preparing Beijing, I fell in the snow just as I was crossing. But today there's no snow. So, and the climate has changed, even in Africa, to the extent that the farmers don't know what time to cultivate because the rains keep on changing. We get rains at the wrong time. Have we looked at that climate change and how it affects women? Have we looked at the food crisis, which we were experiencing? I think we are still experiencing the fuel crisis, the financial crisis. I can mention so many things which have happened, the political instability in many countries. I say even USA is not free from political instability. Because what happens in the part of the world does affect the US, no matter what a big power it is. I was saying, if the US could give the rural women the money which was used on Iraq, wouldn't she be so happy? You see, it would have made us all smile. We would have plentiful irrigations, schools, and name it. I was given to understand that it was 4 billion per month. Now multiply 9 years. And don't we need a world conference to put our heads together again, to take governments accountable? And that's only the amount which is being destroyed in quotation mark by the support. I put it in quotation marks. But you can see even in the poor countries, the amount of resources which we need, which have been spent on killing each other. I don't call them useful wars because they've not solved any problem. People just use the resources from the rural women to kill each other. So don't we need another conference? And I can go on and on and on. What happened in Africa recently is going to leave a gap in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya, everywhere, under the name of democracy. But how many women have died? If there's a curfew, the pregnant women deliver on the streets or in the corridors. They cannot move. And it's very dangerous. So we need to sit down again, because people might say, why don't we continue the way we are doing it? Today we are here talking about the rural women. Who knows about it? In fact, if we have a Fifth World Conference, it will promote the knowledge about the UN women. People will have to know there is a UN women, because they will not disassociate themselves with this conference. Now, who knows about the UN women in the rural areas, in developing countries, even in Europe? No one. But with this, if we mobilize, if we take the fifth conference to mobilize, people will know so many institutions. But apart from that, we are now richer in information than when we went to Beijing. You can see the stories which we have listened to. During Beijing, we exposed some of the problems. During the fifth conference, I think the first thing is to take stock of the success stories and then move on. And Eli, thank you very much for saying we are not undoing the Beijing. No. We have to move on. Those who want to repair Beijing will waste our time. We don't have that much time to undo the Beijing. We just have to move ahead and say, what do we need in this new environment to put in? And that's what we should be doing. And maybe even think of some of the topics will be dealt at the village level, community level, and move on. As we get to the international level, we might even limit some of the agenda so that we can say this can be dealt with at an international level and so on and so forth. And in the Beijing conference, I want to add on something is missing: leisure for women. There's no chapter on sports, on relaxation. So the women have continued working, and trying to be perfect. And they are killing themselves. So many of our friends are no longer here. Bella, where is she? Wangari Maathai, where is she? And so many women, I can mention them. And I think the Esther Oklo, she's no longer here. Of course, she was old, but we would have liked to be with her. But it's because they are straining, they are working, we are stressed up, and we have ignored ourselves. We always want to do things the right way. Let's have time in the Fifth World Conference to work more. And I think people are prepared. Let's not listen to stories about resources. If you can have resources to fight for 9 years, why don't you have the resources for women? We have to take governments to task. There are resources. And we have to take governments. When we were preparing Beijing, I said the day we make women an agenda to pull down the government, because sometimes ministers are forced to resign because they didn't do the right thing. And I think all governments are doing the wrong things. So we have to have an opportunity to hold them accountable. So the resources, I know that would be the first thing to be brought to our attention. Where do we get the resources? We have this crisis and that crisis. And that is all man-made. The banks didn't collapse because the women were managing the banks. This is what I say in my country. All these man-made problems, we have to get rid of them. And then we move ahead. And I think we get better women, better men, better children for this planet. So I'm appealing to all of you to start considering the Fifth World Conference as a movement to remind ourselves, to re-energize ourselves, and to hold our governments accountable for the well-being of humanity, and women in particular.